All right, welcome to day two. Now, before we get into day two, I just want to make sure that you've gone through everything in day one because the way I've created this training is I've just put essential things in there. What is most important is out there. So make sure that you've gone through it. And if you have gone through it, the second thing I want you to do is get the printout of the worksheet that I've given there, answer those questions. Now, don't worry whether the question or the answer that you're giving is perfect. Just think about it. There is a lot of reflection. And as you do that again and again over a period of time, it gets more and more clearer and better. But start somewhere, start thinking about it. That's where the change starts. Okay. So do that. And the third thing is your win, right? We said we need to win a little every day. Little success boosts motivation so that we can move forward and continue with that. So make sure that one, you've done one thing that is winning yesterday. Now, the simplest thing could be to sit and fill up that worksheet to identify and get clarity into what is that you really want. That's a win, right? So it doesn't need to be an exercise or diet or anything. It could be any of that. Like you could eat an apple or you could eat some fruit or vegetable or, eat your favorite dish without guilt, without shame, without any kind of stigma attached to it. That's a win too, right? So all kind of health is important, mental, emotional, all of these, not just physical. So that's your win. So make sure that you're one, watch everything day one before you start day two. Second, you fill up the worksheet. Third, you have created a win for yourself. And I would like to celebrate that win with you, with our community. So join the Facebook group and click on that link that I've given below day one and share your win there. So let's celebrate that together to really help you get more motivation. And with that, let's start day two. Let me share my screen and we get started. Awesome. So it's day two of Get Fit for Life. And day two is all about neurology and skill building. Okay. What we call it as progressive behavior change. So on day one, we talked about change psychology, why change is important and how to make it. Now we actually get into how to really make it progressive. Okay. So what we look at is how does your brain learn and execute things and four factors that can make or break your plan. So I'm going to get into each of these factors as we move forward. Now before we get started, let me ask you this. How many times has it happened that before starting a new program you think, oh, this is not the right time, or you're waiting for the right time to start a new fitness program or diet? Do you know why this happens? It is because you think that when you start this new program, it will not fit into your life. And if you think that this program is not going to, fit into your life, what you think is, or what you do is you wait. You wait for your work to reduce, vacation to get over, festivals to get over, or something to change in your life so that you can get started with this. But think about it, if it's not going to fit into your current life, how do you think it's going to fit into your future life? Really? Like, how does it really work? Would that happen? And if your program is overwhelming, it doesn't give you a power to choose. Okay. You will definitely feel that you need to wait for the right time because you don't have a choice. It's overwhelming. And if your program does not follow the framework of what we call it as progressive behavior change with 4E framework, there will never be a good time to start and you will always be waiting. But before we dive into this framework, you need to understand two things. One, knowing is not doing and less is more. But even before I get into this, just look back at the right time because, you know, There is no right or wrong time. It's just that you don't know how to fit this into your life, or you don't think that can fit into your life. So what you need is a way to make this fit into your life. And we're going to discuss that over next, few minutes, and I'm going to share all of these things, but that's what really matters. Now, before we dive deep into this framework, let's understand two things. Number one, knowing is not doing, and less is more. So what do I mean by that? So take an example of driving a car. You know that there is accelerator, clutch, brake. You need to press the clutch before you brake or you change the gear. And there is a steering wheel that you need to move in order to take turn. Now, this is all you need as an information to start driving a car. Now that you have this information, can you just sit in that, driving seat and start driving a car? You cannot. Like, why? The thing is, what you need to know does not mean you know how to implement it. Your brain does not know how to implement it. Because now what you're doing is when you start driving, you're making all these decisions: clutch, brake, accelerator, gear, steering wheel, all of these when there are vehicles around and you're concerned about your safety, security, collision, damage, all of these. And that's where just knowing what it is not doing, right? And that's why driving is a skill, and skill needs repetitions and practice. So just compare it with, meal plans or exercise plans. Just because you have a plan doesn't mean you'll do it, right? It's practice, it's repetition. And we get into more of that as we move forward, but this is what it means. And concept number two is less is more. Now, what really happens is most people, when they start losing weight or when they think about losing weight, is when they have actually gone too far ahead into that. Now, because you have ignored it for such a long time, what happens is you want to do too many things too fast, which becomes too challenging, and you give up, right? It happens because the early signs were ignored, and now this has become urgent. And just because it's urgent does not mean your brain or body has capacity to start reversing it immediately. It is against the laws of nature, and it doesn't work as what we call it as a law of incubation. Right now, anything that you want to do, there is an incubation period. Simple example, like you started doing this particular work. So if you're hired to do some work, or if you start your own business, you're qualified. That's why you are in that position. But do you start doing everything that you are supposed to do on the day one of that job? The answer is no, you don't. Why? There is an incubation period. Simple thing, simple example. Every seed needs incubation period before it manifests into a plant. Then it gives flowers, and then it gives fruit. You can't have seed to fruit without going through the stages. And that's what is incubation period. And this period is different for different people and different skills, right? And meal plans and exercise plans don't have incubation period in them. And that's where there is no skill building, right? So take this, like from no exercise, you're moving to 60 minutes of exercise, and from eating regular food, you move into eating special meals. All of this in a day. Like from Monday, like today is Sunday, you're doing everything that you've been doing for years, and Monday, you start doing something else. What does it do? It freaks you out. Your brain feel confused and overwhelmed. And so you start looking at ways of delaying the start of new program because you know that's happening. That's something you've either done that for yourself, or you've seen your friend or colleague or somebody do that. That's why it happens. But in my coaching programs, we don't do these radical changes. What we work on is skill building, and for every individual in the right way that works for them. Like some people can learn driving in 5 days, some people will take 30 days. and that's fine as far as you are learning, right? So when you do it this way, it becomes part of your life. And when it becomes part of your life, now you're not looking for excuses, you're not looking for delaying the start of the program, you're not looking for anything else. So understand this: living a healthy life is a skill, and this skill is not taught in a school. But just like any other skill, it can be learned. So that's the first and the most important thing. And skill development is the neurological part. That's neurology for you. Now, in the next segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down skills development into four pieces, which will make it effective, easy, efficient for you. So let's get started in the next section with 4 E's.